Hello! Mary Muse here again. And guess what? It's May. It's Borderline Personality Awareness Month. Woohoo! If I had confetti or like a little party hat, I would have worn that, but I didn't have time to go to Michael's today. But anyway, I wanted to do a PSA on abandonment, since that's something that I personally struggle with and that I know is key, like prime characteristic of people who suffer from borderline personality disorder or other personality disorders, to be quite honest with you. When I was looking on YouTube today, I wanted to try and find something, because I had a hard day this afternoon. This is my second paint of makeup that I've put on since it was running down my face earlier this morning. And I was looking for just some source to empathize with, to be able to really just feel their pain and know I'm not alone in feeling that pain. But all I could find on YouTube was I don't want to use the word cure. How to resolve your abandonment issues. How to fix your abandonment issues. What to do to amend your abandonment issues. And I was like, well, that's great, but majority of my friends and family don't even know what it is to have abandonment issues. So why the heck would they be interested in a PSA about how to resolve it? So this video is specifically for people who have abandonment issues. I'm going to be discussing and trying to give voice to people who don't have their voice quite yet, or don't feel comfortable exuding their voice to their loved ones, hoping that this will give you guys some ammunition. You can use me as your scapegoat for how I feel and how I do with abandonment issues. Yeah, so here we go. Where does abandonment start from? Guess what, guys? It didn't happen overnight. It happened in childhood, many years ago. Because you know I'm only 18, right? Plus 15. Anyway, abandonment starts in your childhood. And this can come in many forms, some more drastic, some less drastic, but that doesn't matter, and I'll explain that in a second. Your abandonment can be triggered by the death of a parent or a loved one. It can be triggered by divorce or separation, by absenteeism. Either your father was never around or your mother was preoccupied. Both of those were in my situation. It could happen if you're in the foster system, or if you're in the adoption system and you don't have a very good first start with your parents. It can be inadequate meals, inadequate nutritious meals, inadequate housing and shelter and clothing. It can be big ones, physical abuse and sexual abuse. That'll throw your abandonment out the door. It can happen as something as just simple as neglect. And I don't want to trivialize that or marginalize that. Neglect is a very powerful thing, but it just seems to be kind of overshadowed by like the physical abuse and the sexual abuse. But I suffered from neglect, from not having parental structure, and I'll get into that. And another, like, again, I don't want to say less trivial, but another one that people usually don't really consider is if you are, let's say, the eldest, or if you are the only child, or if you are the youngest of X number of children, and your parents have another one, if you're very young when that happens, such as was within my case, I was 3.5 years old when my brother was born. You don't understand with your childlike mind that your parents, rightfully so, have to split up their pie of attention between now 2, 3, 4, 5, how many kids, octomom, how many kids that you have. And so when you're too young, you don't understand that, and you just think mommy and daddy are not giving me affection anymore, and instead they're now fond of their new puppy, in a sense. And I had that. My brother was born with a need for special needs, occupational therapy for crossing his right brain to left brain over, long story. So he needed extensive therapy that he justifiably needed, but that stole away all the time that I had for my primary caregiver, which was my mom, and my father, who worked 6, sometimes 7 days a week. He would only see me for an hour and a half on the weeknights, and that's usually when he was coming down from work and eating dinner and then going to bed. So my primary caregiver was devoted, again, rightfully so, to my brother. But to this day, I'm 33 years old, and I still say that she favors him over me. She still gives preference to him over me. That's still, to this day, even though with my psychology degrees, with all of my enlightenment, I still have that issue. And then my kind of theoretical, not quite proven, but works for me, additional theory is that some of us are predisposed to sensitivity. Some of us are just, what is it called? Hyper emotionally intense, or I forget what the actual acronym is, but some people are just more sensitive to things than others. Some people can go through death, divorce, absenteeism, inadequate meals, etc., and they come out all American family. They get the 4-year degree, they go on, have a happy marriage, white picket fence, Labrador Retriever, and they're fine and happy. While as me, I had sexual abuse as a child, and I had neglect, and I had the younger sibling issue, but compared to my other friends who have gone through so much more, it kind of makes me feel like I really don't have a right to be feeling like this. But no. Because some of us, like me, were born with a highly attuned sensitivity to all of these inclinations. And when these abandonment issues happen, you get a feeling of rejection. Rejection is a component of emotional abandonment, and that triggers the emotional pain center of your brain. Can you believe that? And especially it's of your undeveloped brain, where you don't have the prefrontal cortex built in yet. You don't have the executive thinking built in yet. You can't logically understand what's going on, and it leaves an emotional imprint in your brain's warning system. Now, let's see this metaphor here to explain that a little bit better. Let's say you have to walk from your village to the well to get water every day, and you have to cross a field. Every day you cross the field and back. You cross the field and back and back and back and back. You take the same trail. Eventually, you're gonna have stomped out all of the weeds in that trail, and no weeds are gonna grow back up. And you're gonna have actually kind of compressed a trough for you to walk in, and you make your own path. As compared to if you took a brand new path and you'd be like trudging through all the bushes and bramble and stuff. But that's fixable. And I'll get to that in a second too. See all these little like things to sucker you in. Keep listening. So yeah, it becomes physiological. And this is at the same time that our self-worth and our self-esteem is formed. Can you imagine forming your self-worth and your self-esteem based off of all of that? And I'll tell you about the messages we interpret in a second. But in our childlike brains, we cannot conceptualize, let alone vocalize, our distress. So confused, we assume messages of, I have no value, I'm of no worth, no one will stick around for me, I deserve to be abandoned. So, what are the different types of abandonment? There are 2. One and then another one with 3 subtypes. The first one is avoidance, and it's pretty much self-explanatory. If you have abandonment issues and you decide to go, you don't decide, but you go the avoidance path, you avoid any type of emotional relationship that you could have with anyone, whether it be a partner, whether it be a family or parents, whether it be friends, whether it be coworkers or colleagues. You just want, hell, you probably might not even want pets, because anything that can abandon you, you want to have no association with, because you do not want to get hurt, and it is based off of fear that people with avoidance abandonment issues say halt, stop right there. The second form of how people deal with avoidance is control. And I want to put a little sidebar here. None of these are mutually exclusive. I personally jump back and forth, flip-flop constantly. But anyway, control, there's physical and financial and emotional abuse. Picture a domineering parent or a domineering partner who tells you, you're not going to work today. You are not hanging out with those friends. You are eating this and not that, because they are so afraid. Hear this key phrase. They are so afraid of you abandoning them that if they can exert that much control over you, you can't physically, emotionally leave. And that's where it gets kind of dangerous. Another one, which is also dangerous, is manipulation. And that, for the most part, from my experience, manipulation is saying, oh, you're leaving me, Bob? Well, then I'm going to kill myself. If you don't leave me, I'm going to self-harm. And that's, I'm not saying any of these are correct. I'm just saying this is the rationale for what people with abandonment issues deal with. The last one, number C, is the pleasing perfection routine, which is what I am the grand master of. I exhaust my energy, my finances, my time, my patience, my abode, everything to try and make the person just think I am so irresistible that they won't want to leave me, because they can't find anything else better. It's a complete facade, but they won't want to leave me. And that's what that's my usual MOA. So, yeah. So what does this look like? And again, this right here, if you can't get your non-abandonment issue friends to listen to anything that I say today, have them listen to this spiel right here, because I'm going to list off some examples of what triggers abandonment fears, and I'm going to list off also their corresponding messages that I get. At least yours might be different, but what I get. Oh, and I wanted to also note, by adulthood, you are hyper freaking vigilant to all of these little cues that we fear, because we're so terrified. Like, our soul rests in a cauldron of just absolute terror, that we're going to be abandoned. So terrifying. So we become hyper vigilant to it. It's like if you had PTSD from being in Vietnam, you're going to be hyper vigilant to, like, firecrackers going off at 4th of July. Well, even if these are just happy firecrackers going off and they're benign and they don't mean anything, to us, to me, they mean so much more on a different level. Let me get to it. So, example, I have like a dozen here. Example number 1. So when you're 15 minutes late, you said you're going to be here at 6. You're here at 6:15. Oh, well then you just had better things to do, I guess. Yeah. When you cancel or change plans last minute. Oh, I'm not worth even the menial commitment to you, I guess. When you change your routine around, routine and change equals uncertainty, and uncertainty fuels my fire for abandonment. Uncertainty, I like stability, I like knowing what's gonna happen when. Spontaneity is not a big fan of mine, as am I not of it. So yeah, changing a routine or plans. Every sigh at the beginning, at the middle, at the end of conversation, that sigh, you know what I'm talking about. That sigh tells me I'm a nuisance and I am just wasting your time, apparently. Looking at your phone or at your watch when we're out to dinner, when we're watching a movie, when we're talking, I'm not worthy to be heard. And I just take up your time and I'm not worth being validated. Your every freaking gesture. There's a big difference between I love you and I love you. See the big difference there? Okay, I did an extreme right there, but no, just the sudden quirks, just a little of your eyebrow, just a little of your squint. That tells me more than you would ever know. I even have written down right here, facial features are more authentic than words because you don't control this. Some people, not many, can control this. No one can control this. Your tone of voice or the particular words that you use, I, with a negative passion, dissect and assume the worst of what you say. For a prime example, a while ago, I was at a friend's house and she said, oh, well, if you have to, you can, if you want to, you can spend the night here if you're too tired to drive. And I automatically picked up from that, oh, so you really don't want me to crash at your house tonight, girl, but I'll just go along with it and just find my way home. Yeah, that's a prime example that happened last week. Forgetting something that I said, whether it was important or whether it was trivial, it means that I'm not important enough to remember. That's what I believe. Believe, not think. Hardcore believe. A decrease in affection brings me up suspicion. Is there someone else? Am I no longer wanted? Not meeting my expectations of gratitude. This goes back to my whole pleasing perfectionism type shindig. No matter how hard I try, it's not worth it. It's not worth it to you. And that breaks my heart and breaks my spirit when you don't come home and ooh and ah as much as I want you to. That just slump shoulders down. Damn, even at my ultimate perfect best, I'm not good enough for you. For a lot of people, just pure silence is so triggering because it makes them feel that they're being ignored. And leaving notes around the house, or just leaving the house without leaving a note, just triggers this person out of the blue, just from not having that consistency of knowing where things are. Again, breaking that routine. So, what are the 5 stages of abandonment? The first one, when you feel a surge of abandonment come over you, is shattering. And that is filled with anxiety, fear, depression, mistrust, dizziness, a clingy attempt to hold on. It's just earth-shattering. Your whole entire self-worth, your identity is shattered. It's shaken. The second one is withdrawal or avoidance. And that means you pull back from everything and anything because you're so afraid that more's coming down the pipeline that you're just gonna... Yeah, I can see I'm reading cards there. You can just shut down and go numb and not feel anything anymore. Internalizing, and that's those messages I was just reading off to you about. You internalize those messages as part of your being. You feel shame, you feel guilt, you feel worthlessness. The fourth step is rage, and that can be directed at yourself, whether it's through self-harm or suicide, or just even your critical thinking can be more abusive than even that. Or it can be rage towards the other of oh, well, you left me? Well, now I'm gonna go key your car. I'm gonna go, I don't know, throw a bottle through your bedroom window. What now? Again, that's also helping with the withdrawal, the cutting off of the emotions. And then the fifth one, I think there's a 4.5. But the fifth one is lifting. And that's when you find your mentor, you find your friend, you find your online support group on Facebook. Mwah, all my friends. And they remind you that the feelings do in fact go away, that they're not permanent. Which leads me to that last word, permanency. People who have abandonment issues, like me, I'll just speak for myself. I with abandonment issues have black and white thinking. It is all good or all bad. There is no gray spectrum in between whatsoever. And so everything is permanent. Everything is catastrophic. Everything is the end of the world. And this can be based off of the fact that someone didn't come home 15 minutes on time. I go through that intense of emotions. I've gotten good enough now where I don't show it. I put on my little Mary Muse mask and I contain it, and I deal with it journaling and doing other practices elsewhere where I don't have to deflect that, what I can, not in the heat of the moment, believe you me, but what I can like say, okay, I need to put space in between the emotion, the event and the emotion, and space between the emotion and the impulse or action. And I'm able to do that now and vent later and not ruin a relationship. That wasn't evident earlier today, but it works. And I had a very, very dear friend of mine named Sasha who was so kind enough to me to allow me to quote her as to what triggers her and how she feels when she has any surge of abandonment. Sasha says, being ignored or having instability in the affection department is like going from tons to none, to tons to none, and so on and so on. I like tons. So do I, girl. As for the abandonment feeling, it's like there's a huge lump in my throat and I can't breathe and my stomach is sick and my chest is being crushed and my heart is breaking and I'm rotting from the inside out and I can't control my crying and I feel desperate and rejected and I just want an explanation. What's so wrong with me? Why does everybody leave? But instead, I can't ask these questions or I'll be crazy and I'll be obsessed. And all I want is to know why I'm always too much or never good enough. And I can't eat, I can't sleep, I just lie there, hating myself, wondering what I fucked up this time and how bad I've embarrassed myself and how ashamed I should feel. All the while I'm trying not to get sick, but I'm a hurricane and it never stops spinning. And at this point, I'll usually be unable to practice my coping skills or DBT skills and instead become self-destructive as hell. Which is why I wanted to add that little 4.5 right in between, where is it? Right in between internal rage and lifting. For me, I haven't recently, and when I mean recently, I mean close to a year, haven't had this 4.5 area. But my 4.5 area was, I'm fucking raging. I am numbed out. I'm going to go get as effed up as I can. I'm going to take as many pills. I'm going to drink as much as I can. I'm going to mutilate. I'm going to, oh, if you think I ruined the relationship now, let me show you how I'm going to ruin the relationship. And I quit my job. I don't have stability with my finances. I'm just a hot mess. Self-destruction, self-sabotage, all the way. And so, yeah, this was my little PSA for not people with abandonment issues, but for them to be able to use me as an example and be like, yeah, see, I'm like that girl, or no, I'm not like that crazy girl in that area. But I hope this helps, and I hope this brings some, oh, the part I wanted to bring up to you about the path and walking, there's something called neuroplasticity. That's the vocab word of the day, $10 word. Everyone's got to use it. What it means is that, well, neuroplasticity, the brain is plastic, okay? Yeah, you may have created that pathway in that field, and it may be a real hard, like, deeply rooted path. But with a lot of work and with therapy, sometimes medication, with counseling and support, you can find different ways to cross that path. And it's going to be hard. You're going to have to walk through the bushes again. You're going to get stuck by thorns. You're going to hit rocks. But eventually, the more and more that you practice taking that alternative route instead of using the same familiar one that you're used to, the old familiar one will start to root up and flowers will start to bloom. And the new one that you take, the healthier one, will become much more easier to walk in, and it'll get that trough. And it's possible. And I could go on to a whole other 25 and 37 seconds bit on how to help with abandonment issues, but you can find that's all there is on YouTube. I wanted to show what it feels like to have abandonment issues. So I hope this helps you. I hope this helps your family and loved ones. Happy May, BPD Awareness Day, and love you lots, guys.